Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Well, it is now the day before Halloween. It is October 30th, so we have another light subject to go over. On this channel, I've done a few uploads about the Flat Earth Theory and the Flat Earth Society. I follow these things on Facebook and Twitter, mostly for amusement. I mean, I'm not a genuine believer, and in my two previous uploads, I was really kind of questioning who really is. I mean, there was a very large amount of attention brought to this when sort of famous people started endorsing it. Kyrie Irving from the NBA said he endorsed the Flat Earth Theory. Geno Smith from the NFL talked about endorsing the Flat Earth Theory as well, which is, the genuine belief that Earth is not a spherical globe, but sort of a flat disc like a pie pan with a little bit of a cone sticking out downward. Well, today I saw a new update from the group, and they were talking about something rather kind of like a recent development or something. They proposed that a new piece of evidence, really. They proposed that the Earth cannot be a globe, the Earth cannot be a sphere, because the water would just fall right off. Oh, for goodness sake. No, I mean, I'm trying to, I was really hoping that I could, kind of do this somewhat normally, but a lot of people in the comments section were really just tearing them apart, just sort of like, okay, I'm glad we learned now that this thing was an entire satire. This thing was a piece of satire. This thing is not, not something that a lot of people genuinely believe. When it comes to the Flat Earth Theory, you really have to wonder about the motivations for this, and also, why did this thing take on when it did? I mean, yes, okay, there's been a Flat Earth Society for a very long time, but we notice rises and falls when it comes to certain belief systems and certain, I was about to say paranormal, but yeah, I guess you could call this something paranormal, something outside the realm of normal science. But the flat earthers that I know, they really like to focus on the conspiracy side of it. It's some people have very, very detailed mathematical analyses. They have very, well-configured models of how the sun is actually much closer to Earth than we think, and it is kind of just moving very, very gently at a short distance above the Earth. That's how we get day and night. And of course, Earth is constantly accelerating upward into outer space. But I guess they did solve the mystery of how the water stays on the Earth. And, it's like, okay, of course, gravity, centripetal force. Gravity's a big one, yes. Also, there's something called the moon, the gravity between the Earth and the moon, and tides. And if you're listening to this, if you're one of the few people that's listening to these things, I mean, I know this topic isn't very popular on this channel, but yeah, I'm sure you don't actually believe that the water would fall off the Earth if the Earth were a round sphere, like a ball. I mean, I was very surprised that they were trying to actually use that argument. They drew out a few illustrations. They showed what happens, it's like when you were to pour water onto a flat surface, or like into a pie pan, versus if you were to pour water onto a ball, and the water in the pie pan stays in place, and the water in on the ball falls right off. So therefore, the Earth has to be flat, like a pie pan. Otherwise, that water would fall off. But one of the things that's always amazed me about the Flat Earth Society is that their theory, means that the edge of the perimeter, like the perimeter of Earth, is all ice, all of it. I mean, that's kind of what Antarctica is. There is no Antarctica in the actual Flat Earth Theory. It's just this kind of wall of ice and rock and maybe some land materials that are all just on the edge of Earth, and no human can actually get to that point and fall off the edge because, no human can fall off the edge, right? Because once again, we still have gravity, so what would happen is you would just be walking kind of on the edge of the pie pan. Even if you're to hold up a coin, like if you have a quarter or a dime nearby, you can see that there is an edge. And, it's like you would just be walking on the edge, which would be a total barren desert. That's the thing that always fascinated me the most. And not to mention, though, if Earth is a pie pan, I still never got a proper answer from the Flat Earth Society. When they wrote to me, actually, about one of my questions was, hey, is there no sunlight on the underside? You know, because, like, if the sun is above this little pie pan Earth, then all the light's going down, but it's never going to be on the bottom side of your little pie pan Earth. And, you know, it's like, as far as I understand, that would just be sort of a desert, completely barren, in total darkness, because you couldn't have sunlight, you couldn't have moonlight. It would just be, you know, once again, a desert that is, you know, 100% barren. I don't think any life would be able to form there if, you know, there is no sunlight at all, ever. And not to mention, there would be no water, because all the water's on the top of the flat Earth, because otherwise it would fall off. Another interesting thing that was mentioned with the flat Earth theory, and I really just think it was an interesting thing to say, that if you look at the water level across the ocean, it's always the same. You know, it's like the water level on the Earth never changes, you know, like sea level, right? I mean, like, and you look at a photo of the Pacific Ocean and it looks like it's flat, you know, like, wouldn't the water level be changing? Like, you know, 2 feet higher here, 1 foot higher there. And I was just like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because, no, I mean that seriously. I mean, we have these things called canyons. We have things like the Marianas Trench. First of all, water goes down and it fills up, but I don't think they've even proven that the oceans are the same height. You know, like, the oceans are the same height in all areas. Like, the sea level that you get on the coastline is the same as the kind of dead center of the Atlantic Ocean. I don't think that that's proven. In fact, it's most likely not, because of things like, you ever heard of these things called waves? And yeah, like, you know, the water levels are always changing in the ocean. Not to mention, water goes down, right? The continental shelf and the continental slope, all of those things, like, the water just goes down and it gets deeper. And the Marianas Trench we mentioned as well. I really wish I could, you know, just be one of those guys that makes all these videos about how he's a genuine believer in the Flat Earth Society. I think it would be so much fun. The problem is, you know, it's like, I mean, that's just unethical. If I'm going to be putting something out, like, I have to kind of say something a little bit more honest, because, you know, if someone starts doing something like that, if they're just going to be like these arguments about how gravity's actually 80 times weaker than you think it is, so the Earth is actually accelerating upward 80 times faster. I mean, yeah, anybody can talk in a fast voice and, you know, talk about things that they don't really understand, like pseudoscience. I'm not a scientist, flat out, you know. I'm very, very open about that. But anyone can talk fast about a subject, but they don't really understand. That's why, for me, you know, like, on a channel like this, it's so much more entertaining, I think, to just kind of look at the news articles, look at, with true crime, one of the good things to do is actually not only articles, but also look at the press releases issued by the police. And many of the press conferences from police officers are available on the internet, and you get the primary source documents that you can go through. So then you can actually form some sort of social commentary opinion. Granted, you know, it's not firsthand, but it's a commentary opinion, and the commentary opinion leads to you constructing your own theory. Whereas with the Flat Earth, you know, the Flat Earth Society and the other Flat Earth pages on Facebook and Twitter, no, I just read one article sometimes and then I compose a response, because it's like, I wish I could just be one of them, you know. I wish I could just be behind the sort of firmament, if you will, and put out this fake content. It would look like so much fun, but, you know, the problem is, somehow, some small minority of people, the Kyrie Irvings of the world, would start to believe it genuinely, and they're going to run around telling their whole friends, family, and social media circuits that the Earth is flat because Black Box Radio said so, and then I'm going to cause trouble for them. But, you know, it's very interesting to actually see someone put forth the time to even compose a hand-drawn illustration of water falling on a pie pan versus water falling on a ball. And guess what, you know, if you do pour water on a ball right now, you can go to your kitchen sink, take a little ball, pour a glass of water over it. What happens? Yeah, seriously, what happens? Well, the water's going to fall right off. But you pour that water onto a plate or something, the water's going to fall off too because it moves around. But if you were to pour it into a bowl or maybe into a pie pan, the water's going to stay in place. Therefore, we know the earth is flat, right? Well, tomorrow is Halloween, and on Halloween we say trick or treat, so this was definitely more of one of the trick uploads here on BBOR. But first I can just say, Happy Halloween, and know the earth is not flat.